Hello, and welcome back to my Doctor Who reviews. Today we are reviewing The Crimson Horror, which is the next Doctor Who episode of Season 7. It's starring Matt Smith and Jenna Louise Coleman, so here we go. So we'll start off with good points. Mrs. Gillyflower is a very sinister character. She's just got this kind of creepy, evil, old woman-y tone to her. Like she is that evil grandma that people don't want kind of thing. We get to see Strax, the Silurian, and her partner again. The trio, basically. I can't quite remember their names because it slipped my head. But I think they're brilliant, and I still think they should make a spin-off series for them, because I think it would be really interesting. I mean, they've appeared in several episodes now, and I just really am starting to like the idea of a spin-off series. Strax is generally hilarious in the episode, which leads to a bad point, but generally I think he's quite a comic character, and I like him. I really do. I think he brings comedy to very serious things, but it works in episodes. So they made a reference to an old Doctor Who companion, Tegan, because the Doctor mentioned something about trying to fly to Heathrow just because one of his Australian companions wanted to go there, meaning Tegan. I do like the flashback scenes in which rather than the Doctor explaining it, there's kind of this old kind of flashback thing. It works in the episode. I wouldn't say flashbacks like that would normally work. My phones went off, but it actually worked in this sense, and I thought it was quite interesting. Mr. Sweet. Now, before I actually found out what actually it was in the episode, it reminded me a lot of the Happiness Patrol, because Mr. Sweet, Candyman, it kind of linked together, which was a surprise. It became a surprise to me what it actually turned out to be. I kind of thought at the beginning of the episode it would have something either to do with Silurian venom of some sort that someone's got a hold of, maybe an evil Silurian which the other Silurian may have to fight, or something like that. And then when it was Mr. Sweet, it kind of thought, maybe it's some form of Candyman kind of thing. Maybe it was the Candyman, even though Candyman died in Happiness Patrol. But this was all just random speculation, but it wasn't. We find out in the episode that it is a prehistoric parasite creature. Yes, I've kind of spoiled it. Never mind. It's an interesting main villain to have an old woman who is really, really sinister and basically doing her own thing, like plotting this all by herself, barring the fact that she has a prehistoric parasite attached to her, which I don't know how much it controls her or if she is actually doing it herself. It's not really explained, but I'd like to think that it's kind of talking to her in some way. I'm not sure how. Maybe because it's attached to her, it kind of controls her mind a little, because I think it would have been I don't think it's all just this old woman. But it's really interesting, and I like it because of its interestingness. It's quite a obscure thing for Doctor Who. I think it's quite an obscure episode in my opinion, and quite a monster light kind of episode. It didn't really have the kind of villains, which in all fairness, considering the next episode, this is the next episode, the trailer, well, it's obviously got Cybermen in it, so kind of it balances out, really. Anyway, bad points. I had very few bad points, but I have very few good points, because there was nothing really I could pick out of it. Anyway, I think everything in the episode's a bit too fast-paced. It's one of those things where they make it go over far too... My phone's going off again, I do apologise. They make things go off too fast, like, throughout the episode. And yes, they only have 45 minutes to do so, but it just seems to... There's either too much or too little, and they're just spreading it out too fast to get rid of it. In this sense, in this episode, I think there was too little, and they just kind of tried to spread it out as much as they could, but made it still seem far too fast to go over it. Like, there was few main events, and between that they just kind of threw in really fast-paced dialogue and things like that, like kind of just to pass, trying to get the episode kind of beginning and end too quickly, if you know what I mean. Why? Anyway, another point this is just in general, I think the Sontarans are becoming like too much of a joke now. As much as I like Strax and I like how funny he is, I really think that they need a strong Sontaran villain episode where the Sontaran Empire are invading somewhere or fighting the Rutans or something like that, because it's just becoming too much of a joke now. I think the Sontarans need a comeback as main villains for an episode, because I don't like the idea of them always being this joke. And it's a shame, because they're actually decent villains. The parasite thing, it looks cheap and tacky. It looked rather cheap and rather tacky looking. And then in the end, it just kind of seemed a little bit ridiculous. I also didn't like how it's basically opened up that Clara's now forced to take 2 children on board the TARDIS, because I think that kind of makes it a bit childish. It's going to make the next episode, which has Cybermen in, a bit childish, and I just don't like the idea of it. Anywho, that's all the good and bad points. So yeah, I think the major problem with this episode overall is that there's nothing really to pick out as being evidently good. I suppose in a good sense there's nothing to pick out that's really bad, barring the few that I've picked out. This episode does seem a little bit like a space filler episode, like kind of it's filling in a gap, which isn't a bad thing as such. It's just, considering the next episode's Cyberman thing, they've just kind of thrown in the whole kid thing, but I don't like the idea of it, because I think it'll make the Cybermen episode a bit more childish, because of the fact that they got 2 children as companion type characters for that episode. But anywho, I've gave it a rating. This episode has been rated a 7 out of 10. So it's not all bad. It's not the best, but it's not terrible. In fact, it's not really that bad. It was enjoyable to watch. So, thank you for watching. I'm sorry this review is a bit short. It's just there was nothing really I could pick out or say, and I didn't really want to go through the entire plot, even though I have spoiled a little bit of it. But anywho, thank you for watching. Goodbye.